Hey guys, Jay here. Welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 78. Models Memory is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where we're talking about my painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 YouTube videos a week and you stream every single night. How could you possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, I stumbled upon, I think, one of the weirdest, most genius, most odd products I have ever seen in my entire life. Over on Merchoid, buy awesome official geek merchandise. That's how Games Workshop does a lot of their dumb swag. And it is, I am dubious of the quality of any of these products that they sell. There was an Ultramarines bathrobe that actually did look kind of neat. I actually saw somebody wearing it at Adepticon, and it didn't look bad. It doesn't look like a real bathrobe. I've actually been in the market for a bathrobe, but I'm trying to find one that's made of, it's made of towel, but it's blue with rubber duckies. I've been looking for this product. I haven't been able to find it. Maybe I can make one. Bathrobes are not a hard. I actually am a bit of a seamstress. I went to school for theatrical costume design and set design, and comparison shopping rubber ducky bathrobes.